I mean, this guy was the best. He was the best because his dad had pushed him so hard and he went through the motions, but he was acting out in rebellion through other things and getting into stuff that he shouldn't have got into.
No. Ooh, that's better, right, babe?
Yeah. She founded an architectural concrete company.
He founded a $100 million clothing company.
She took the world by storm as a social media star.
He took the world by storm as a famous serial entrepreneur.
Together we started a business.
And had babies.
Now we're figuring out the best ways to do both.
Join us as we learn from other entrepreneurs going through the same life struggles.
As they share their life hacks about success, love, kids.
And everything in between.
Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist. Quote by Pablo Picasso. Don't handicap your children by making their lives easy. Quote by Robert A. Hammond.
Welcome to this episode of the Pretty and Punk Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Caldwell, and I'm here with my beautiful wife,
iLdiKo Ferenczi.
And we have another great podcast for you guys. Sorry about that. We have another great podcast for you guys. And it's just about something that is pressing on our heart because we're always trying to push our kids. And it's, are we helping or hurting our kids by pushing them or not pushing them as hard as we do? Because I feel like that there is that middle ground you have to find, whether you are pushing your kids or not pushing your kids. I see a lot of families out there that are just, and I recently heard this, and this is where the conversation actually comes up from, is where they were, and I see the point of view too, that when they let their kids just kind of find their way, and they're kind of, playing video games and roaming around and trying to, do on social media.
Well,
and
I worry.
Maybe playing basketball, but they're trying to find their way. Mm-hmm. Should we be pushing them at all? And if so, how hard? What do you think? Well, before we jump into that, hey guys, we hope you're enjoying today's episode of the Pretty and Punk Podcast. And if you are, and you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. It just takes a second. It means so much to us because it really helps the podcast get out there to more listeners like you guys. And if you know anybody it might help and you can send it to them, we really appreciate that too.
We also love and appreciate your reviews. Even the babies look forward to them every day. If you share this episode on social media today, don't forget to tag us. We want to celebrate you because we know it's not easy being a parent in business, and the way that you juggle things makes you a superhero. That's worth a shout out. Together, we have a community of our personal followers as well, and we just want to put it out there. We want to show everybody that this juggle is possible, and you are our family, and we're so proud and grateful to have you a part of this family. So don't forget, all the links are below in the show notes. And thank you again, and let's get back to the show.
Are we helping or hurting our children when we try to push them into greatness?
I have something to say on this. I really do.
The floor is yours.
The floor is mine. So for me, in my experience, and I found this very useful in our home, we did not expose our children to devices. I know that that's something that is recommended, but we really kept that until they were 4 years old. Destiny was a little bit younger, but I feel when you don't have any kind of distractions or you have them on YouTube, you really get to, plus I had the privilege of staying at home with my children. Of course, there was a part of that time when I was fighting for my life, but I was so lucky and grateful to be with my children so I could see what sort of things that they gravitated to at a very young age. And I think that's very important for parents to be able to have that observation of their children to see what type of things that they like, that they do. And I do feel a lot of that is also influenced by us. I didn't use devices for health reasons around them, so they would see us interact with adults. They would come to our meetings. I would speak, we would pray over them. We would speak inspirational quotes and share them. And Daniel, at a very young age, started saying quotes, and Destiny was into movement. And I think as a mother and a father, you can really see what sparks their excitement and their happiness and the things that they like. So introduce those things into their lives.
But let's move forward a little bit. Let's go to a point where we've kind of decided. So at this point, we have this company that has a lot to do with quotes, and so we're introducing quotes to Daniel. Daniel's likes doing these quotes, so he started spitting these quotes onto when we would do videos and stuff, and so we just started recording them, and we realized that he liked it a lot. So it kind of became his thing, and then we said, and then he started doing longer and longer. He started doing long poems,
because
you were pushing him really hard at that time.
Well, because
But let's talk about pushing though.
But I can't say that I'm pushing. I felt more like I'm pouring into. He's hungry for more. And you said, I can't even believe a child this young is doing this stuff. I said, he loves the challenge. He's learning not children's prayers, but long adult prayers. He's learning very intricate poems, classical poems. He was doing scripts. He was in an acting class, not because I wanted him in it, but he was interested. What was acting? I told him what acting classes were about. And I said, but you're not old enough. And he said, can I go? I said, you have to be 5 years old. So he was 3.5. He was 3.5. And he said, he went into the school, into the class, and I had a little pull because I was doing really well in acting before I got pregnant. And I just kind of bypassed the age thing. And they asked him how old he was. He says, I'm 5 years old. But he was just almost like he's pushing himself.
Yeah, and he does. And don't get me wrong, I know he pushes himself, but what I'm trying to get out of you here is that we're not necessarily talking about where we're taking the kid. It's once they find something. You've called me off on him before. I've gone off on Daniel a little bit when I saw him not giving 100%, when I know he has it in him.
Yeah. That is more like now, because he has dedicated himself to become a public speaker. Now, if he's going to go out, if this is his wish to change the world, to perform his speech, the power of words, then he needs to be in it 100%. If he doesn't want to perform, then don't perform. But don't go at it halfway. I understand that, and I can explain that to him in a way where he understands. He's a little bit older now, and now that he's made that his career choice at the moment, and he also understands that this can pivot. He could be an architect or whatever he wants to be. But it's important for him to take accountability for himself.
Well, there are parents out there that will, you'll see them. You go to any kid's baseball game or soccer game or whatever, or some of these practices where these parents are paying a lot of money maybe to put them in a certain type of practice. And when they know they're not, or maybe they think they're not giving 150%, you'll hear them screaming across the field or yelling at them, or they're walking to, maybe they didn't get a hit during the game, or maybe they didn't dig hard enough when they were trying to get a catch, or maybe they weren't practicing hard enough, whatever it might be. And you have these parents that are, really putting it on their kids.
Yeah, I can't relate to that because, And going back, yes, I've seen that, but I can't relate to that. That's not my style. And going back a little bit when you were saying pushing, I feel like it's important to not have anything interrupting the babies and the toddlers, because that's when you're going to find out what they're interested in. I think those parents that are yelling and freaking out, it's almost like, are they truly doing something successful today, or are they trying to relive their path? Maybe they were soccer stars when they were a kid, or a football player, or a baseball player, or a basketball player, or a painter, whatever. They had this glory moment when they were kids. That was their gift. But that may not necessarily be our children of today's gift. Yes, right. I liked entrepreneurship and stuff, and it's so cool that Daniel's into that, but Destiny wasn't into that. She was into dancing and movement. Now that she sees her brother doing stuff, I really want to be a part of what my brother's doing. She's inspired by him, but you cannot force success at doing something that may not be that kid's God-given gift. So I feel when I see and I observe that type of behavior, that's not it. I mean, I had different talents than my brother, but we both had a love for business. My mom never had to yell or push us to greatness, even in dance, and we were getting medals and all these things, but we knew my mother's story of how hard she worked to get us to a land, and what she sacrificed to get us to a land of opportunity. And I feel a lot of people don't realize what they have. And I'm not going to be raising entitled or spoiled children. They know grandma's story. They know my story. And I feel they're more excited about doing great things and being close to the Lord because of who we are, and they know our story. But yes, as you were saying, that type of pushing, I feel like that's very toxic and so scary for that child, because they might not even want to do that sport. They may do the sport till they graduate, and then they're going to leave it.
Well, I think that's
now, why
it's
waste
a very
all
fine
that
line,
time?
because I do think kids, like anybody, need pushing. Like,
yes, of course.
Like when you're coaching,
but do they love what they're doing?
Well, yeah, I mean, but maybe they love what they're doing. But sometimes a coach, take the parent out of the equation. Sometimes a coach, and when you have a coach, you should let your coach rather than parent over them, I believe.
Right.
I've seen that too often, and that's not a good thing.
Right.
But if you're coaching your own kid, there's a certain level of that. To push that kid, sometimes you have to push them to a certain level. I mean, I think it's LeBron or Kobe. No, it wasn't LeBron. I think it was Kobe, whose dad pushed him really hard to practice hard, to tell him that he had to have so many shots in before the end of the day. And those are the types of things, you're setting expectations for them.
That makes sense. And of course, if we have the opportunity to go to school. And when I was in school, I knew I had to come home with the grades. I knew I had to work extra hard. And I remember being 8 years old, and I woke up to the sound of my mom crying. And it still gets me emotional because I went into the bathroom. And that's usually when she unwinds. She's having a bath. And I heard her cry 2 times in her life. Once with my report card, I think I got a C+. And then another time when my brother died. Those were the only 2 times. She was a very strong woman, and she sadly had to pull her weight as a mother and father in one. So I'm sure she had emotions behind closed doors that I didn't see, maybe, but those were the 2 times. And it hit me so hard because I knew immediately why she was crying, because she's working so hard, and all I had to do was go to school and pull the grades in. And I knew in my head that I was talking a little too much and getting sidetracked. I was doing things that I knew were distracting me in class, so I didn't get the mark. I knew why I didn't get the mark. And I was capable because I was always on the honor roll. older.
Yeah.
But I feel like it just, I don't know, like you just want to do great. Just like that Hungarian soccer player. He knew when he did the interview, they were asking him about his success, and he said his father was spent a lot of time with him playing soccer, practicing and pouring into him, but he knew how hard his father had gone through life, so he wanted to make him proud, and that was almost a bonus for him because he had this weight that pushed him, that catapulted him to do great. And I feel...
I mean,
Dwayne, what do you think?
Well, I was thinking about Dwayne Johnson's story. I remember reading a post of his maybe a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about his dad. And I don't know if it was his dad's birthday, but he was kind of reminiscing about his dad, and he said he wished he had repaired their relationship before he passed. But he said his dad was very hard on him, and I just, if I read into that a little bit, and not knowing the whole story, so I could be way off, but if I just read into that a little bit, Dwayne Johnson's accomplished a lot. And, his dad was a wrestler too.
Right.
And Dwayne Johnson far exceeded, the level that his dad had. But his dad was a famous wrestler.
Right.
And I think, if this was the case, his dad wanted better for him. He wanted him to excel past what he had done,
right,
and was probably pushing him very hard in certain places of his life,
right.
And of course, that played out in Dwayne's life, but at the same time, it may have caused their relationship to fracture. So Dwayne Johnson went on to become one of the greatest superstars of our lifetime. One of the most famous people on the planet,
right?
But at the same time, it probably early on caused a fracture in their relationship. And I don't know that's 100% the case, but that's kind of what I got from that post, if I read into that post. So pushing him got that success. And I know I've read other stories, actually that other movie, Will Smith movie, King Richard, about Serena and Venus Williams, that was a case of, and watching the movie, and I might have even been harder, maybe they didn't show everything in there, but he pushed his kids hard, and he made them practice hard. And when they didn't give 150%, he called them out hard. But they knew he loved them. And I think that's the difference.
That's the difference.
When somebody just walks on the field, and you have this parent walk on the field, and there's not love there.
Yeah.
And they try to force this, you need to practice and you need to work hard onto that kid.
Right.
It falls on deaf ears. And maybe when they don't feel that love, the fight and division ensues.
Right. And that other point of if their parents aren't successful, and not even successful, but understand the sacrifices and, all the work that they put into giving them a life of opportunity, to having the privilege of going after a passion.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys haven't watched King Richard, you guys got to watch that, because it's just a really, really good movie. And it kind of just, if you want to pour into your kids, or you want greatness for your kids, it's kind of, there's a balance of expectation there in that movie. And it's almost like the perfect balance. It's like he's hard on his kids, but he's also expecting greatness from them. And they love doing what they're doing. So they found what they love to do. They enjoyed what they love to do. And now they're excelling in it. And he's pushing them hard because he sees greatness in them.
Right. And they probably wanted to do well.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody, when they're fulfilling their passion, they don't want to do bad. They want to do great. I feel when we look at our kids, I feel like they want to do great. And I remember all the way back to when I was performing at 3 years old on stage doing the Hungarian pillow dance. And I remember making the wrong steps. And I was in my head, I'm like, I messed up. And then the crowd started laughing, and eventually I ended up throwing my pillow at the audience because they were laughing and I had my feelings hurt because I was already, my mom never pushed me, but I was already trying.
Your mom never pushed you?
Well, no, I mean at 3 years old, no.
I met your mom.
When I was older, the older I got, the responsibility became greater. And especially after my brother's death, it was just 2 women in the house. That's it. Yeah. Nobody was helping us. So the responsibility was different than when I was 3. But I remember her running up. My mom ran up after the performance and she said, "Oh, why did you do that?" And I said, "They were laughing at me." And she said, "They were laughing at you because you were cute. And they were all screaming, Chiposh Kish Paprika, which is how I got my nickname, Spicy Little Pepper, because I had a little temper, which Destiny has too. But I feel like
you still have.
Kids, when they're doing something that they love, they want to do it greatly. They want to do it well. I feel that's in them. And as parents, we know how to lead them into greatness. I remember Daniel.
We should know how.
We need to. And I feel like instinctually we kind of are given that gift from God.
Yeah, but there's some parents out there. I mean, there was a story, I remember watching the story. I think it was on 30/30 is that the ESPN show? I think what it's called. And it was about this football player who played for USC, Todd Maranovich or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he played for USC, and I remember his dad pushing him really hard since he was young, like 3 years old. Like he couldn't eat nothing with sugar. No, I mean, we do a lot of that too, but we're not. They made it sound so bad in the show.
Well, like, I think all parents come at us. What do you mean you don't let them eat
they had him doing pull-ups and push-ups. And at that level, it doesn't sound bad. It almost sounds like, you have to step back and go, is that really bad? Or is he like trying to give him the tools to win? But at some point, they had a fractured relationship.
If it's toxic, like if he's crying,
that's what I mean. And I think it got to that point. And by the time he was in high school, I mean, this guy was the best. He was the best because his dad had pushed him so hard and he went through the motions, but he was acting out in rebellion through other things and getting into stuff that he shouldn't have got into.
How do you think that is? Was it the influence that he kept around him?
There was so much promise. Oh, it was definitely all of that.
Because that's another reason why parents of today are homeschooling, because there's toxic influence out there that can just be, change people's. I was watching someone do an interview. I don't want to say their name, but they said, if I see someone that is bad hanging out with my kid, and we're not at that stage, we haven't had that, but he said, I will do everything to bust up that relationship. And I'm like, maybe parents really do need to do that. I'm going to take a note.
Remember that little kid on the playground that you used to, every time you would try to come up and play with Daniel?
Oh, yes, I would just kind of, because he would swear. And
you're like, it's time to go. We got to go.
It's like, Dan, we gotta go. Yes. You just, just
what
do
was the
your,
kid's name? You used
doesn't
to call
even
him
matter.
out.
It doesn't matter. I don't know. But he just, I think that was okay in his family, and I just really didn't want them to even see. I would just stand in front of them. Just an older kid and
out of control.
Yeah, so it's just like you see the tornado coming. Like, it's time to go. It's time to go.
But I just think that story about the football player Todd. When I think about that, I think that there is probably there's some threshold there where that when you get past or over that threshold, and if your kid doesn't feel like it's in love, that you're doing this in love, and that you're not maybe explaining yourself. Because I think we always, I've come down hard on Daniel, but I always start and I lead with, Daniel, you're better than that. You can do better than that. Stop fooling around. You're supposed to be practicing right now. And maybe I'm a little hard. You've had to call me off on him a couple times. But
I hate it.
But I know when he can be
though?
better, and I see it, and especially when we're up against a little bit of a, he was practicing for one of his speeches,
right?
And I just had I had to let him know that time was not on our side,
right? But also, I mean, he's not in the type of sport where say he plays and he plays poorly, he's going to still get a victory prize or trophy or ring or whatever. He's not in any of those. But I feel like, what is it, darling? Oh, your heart. I know. Okay, can I give you a hug? Okay, you tell him that you love him and you want him to love you back. Oh, sweet baby.
Okay.
Oh.
The
Now
struggle is real.
She loves her brother back. I was going to give her a hug, but she's running to go be with her brother.
She's going to be okay.
But what I was going to say was, yes, you can push. I don't really like it when you do that, but I do understand with the thing that he's pursuing, the speaking, he wanted to be in a speaking contest. And we knew he couldn't win because you had to be 18. But they let him, and he's been in tons of speaking contests. And he still made it to the final round. Yeah, he still won. And
he did amazing. Like, people were cheering for him. Everybody on the show was cheering for him.
I was worried that he might not, like a part of my mama bear was like, what if they don't even let him go through, or like, and then his heart's going to break. But then at the same time, I knew as the mama bear, I have to let his heart break, because then he understands that either he has to do better or he will learn from this experience. But he actually did surprisingly well.
He did amazing.
And kicked butt.
I think he did the best
rounds.
of anybody I saw on there.
Because
there might have been better people, but I saw he did better than
when
anybody.
you get to expose your kids to things at a young age, they're fearless.
Yeah.
They're fearless. I mean, we have more fear about public speaking than him.
But when you think about these kids that are playing baseball or basketball or football or anything, speaking anything at the highest level, and if you are not the best of the best, if you are not pushing yourself in every aspect of your training, whatever that is, you will not get there.
That's right.
And you're up against other greats.
Well, and that's the way that we explain it. I believe that we don't just freak out. I feel whenever we're upset with our children, we really have a great way of communicating that and why they should put 100% into it, because it's going to do this, that, and the other. Whereas maybe some people don't know how to communicate that and they get frustrated and yell, but they're not communicating why they need to put 100% in it. This is a sport that you chose, or this is a thing that you chose, so you need to do well.
You've been listening to the Pretty and Punk podcast, and we've been speaking about pushing greatness. Are we helping or hurting our kids? It was such good content that we needed to split it into 2 episodes. So we have another great episode, the other half of this episode dropping next week. Be sure to listen. And
we look forward to seeing you guys next week. God bless you. I hope this helped you. And if you know someone that needs this episode, please share it with them. And remember to review and
be sure to listen next week.
Yes. See you next week. God bless.
I hope this episode of the Pretty and Punk podcast inspired you today. If you want to see more, click the subscribe button and the thumbs up. God bless. Love you. You've been listening to Pretty and Punk. I hope you loved it. And I hope it changed your life. See you next week. God bless.